Level Golf, a series on my channel which nobody cares about, evidently, but I love. It's a series that asks you to team build not for a battle facility or PvP, but for every mandatory battle in a game. As team building does in any other situation, this involves breeding moves onto a Pokemon when the daycare is accessible. If you've ever tried teaching a move to a Pokemon through breeding, you'll know how tricky the process is, but in the context of a regular single-player experience, things are a bit worse. To start, a child's species will always be whatever species the mother was. Of course, there are a handful of exceptions, but don't worry about them. This is crucial to understand before we talk about moves. There are three main ways for a Pokemon to learn a move through breeding. Most Pokemon have a set of moves called egg moves, which they can know upon hatching if their father knew the move. Starting in Generation 6, the same applies to the mothers as well, which is good for those games. Second, all TM moves work the same way. The father can pass them down if it knows them, while the child can learn that move by TM. If you don't have a TM for a move, you can regard it in the same way you'd think about an egg move. Gen 6 also removed the ability to pass down TM moves. Finally, if both parents know a move that their child can learn by leveling up, the child will know the move. This one won't really matter for our purposes, because what's the point of breeding the move onto a child when you can just learn it by level up, and if you're passing down a move by this way, you've already proven you're willing to do that. Notice that none of these require the parents to know the moves which they're passing down by any specific method. If a father knows a move by level up and the child species only knows that move by TM, that still works. In case you were wondering how gender unknown Pokemon square in with all of this, they basically don't. Gender unknown Pokemon can only breed with Ditto, and so can only produce their own species, and so there's pretty much nothing to be said about them. And finally, two Pokemon cannot produce an egg in the first place unless they have at least one egg group in common. Egg groups are something like types, but they describe Pokemon in some different terms, and all they do is determine if two Pokemon can breed or not. Pokemon in the No Eggs Discovered egg group can't breed at all, and the Ditto group, guess who's in that one, can breed with everything except itself. A species can have one or two egg groups associated with it. The fact that in general terms, prior to Generation 6, only mothers pass down their species and only fathers pass down their moves, combined with the fact that egg groups create a huge restriction on who can breed with who, makes passing down some combinations of moves impossible. Other ones will require some very specific instructions. Even Game Freak has made errors in this regard. It's a whole category of illegal Pokemon. And now add on the simple fact of the matter, your resources are limited. Here's an actual scenario I encountered early on while creating Level Golf. I want a Chikorita that knows Hidden Power and Leech Seed, but because I just hit Ecruteak City, I can't get the TM for Hidden Power until I get access to Surf, so that also needs to be taught through breeding. Let's remember that Chikorita is part of two egg groups, Monster and Grass. I can get Hidden Power onto Chikorita by first breeding Slowpoke until I get a male, then I trade it while it's holding a King's Rock to evolve it into Slowking, and assuming it's still level 1, this will cause it to learn Hidden Power. Yes, this really does work. Then I breed that with a female Chikorita, and then that baby Chikorita will have Hidden Power. Slowking and Chikorita can breed because they share the Monster egg group. As for Leech Seed, I can get a male Execute to level 11 to teach it Leech Seed, and then breed that with a female Chikorita. Execute and Chikorita can breed because they share the Grass egg group. Okay, but this doesn't explain how to get both moves onto Chikorita at the same time. Now I just have one Chikorita that knows Hidden Power and another one that knows Leech Seed. I can't just breed those two together because, again, only fathers pass down their moves before Gen 6. I need to find another breeding chain I can use to teach either Leech Seed to Slowking or Hidden Power to Execute so I can pass down both moves onto one Chikorita at the same time. Slowking cannot learn Leech Seed in any way, so our only bet is to find a way to breed Hidden Power onto Execute. Slowking is still the only option for who it learns Hidden Power from, because every other Pokemon in HDSS who can learn the move by level is post-game, except for Unknown, who cannot breed. So now we have to find a sequence of one or more Pokemon who have egg groups in common to create a bridge from Slowking's egg groups to Executes. It happens to be that Chikorita will work perfectly fine for this case, but it won't always be so simple. In some situations, you'll be going, say, 2 or 3 generations deep per chain, and going 10 generations deep over the course of a 4-move combo is not unreasonable. You can imagine how this gets time-consuming and error-prone, so I started to look online for any work done in this field. I found some infographics that give lists of Pokemon that connect different egg groups, and they're definitely helpful, but they still leave too much work for me to do by hand when I'm going to be doing this over and over across an entire game. I found a few breeding chain programs just by searching on GitHub. All of them had unreasonable dependencies, one being MediaWiki. One looked very good, but it was only accurate for Generation 7. Porydex is arguably the best one out there because it lists out several possible chains, but it, along with everything else I've mentioned so far, can't do combinations of moves, which is too much work to do by hand. The only thing I found that can evaluate combinations of moves is Pokemon Showdown, but it has other problems. Showdown's tools for validating teams are concerned with that and only that. If a move doesn't have to be taught by breeding, then it presumes you'll teach it by that other means instead. It's also unique in that it doesn't actually show you the breeding chains in question, which automatically disqualifies it for my uses, but just in general, that's not a good idea. How should people know if it's accurate if you don't show your work? Oh, well, actually they say in their source code that they don't do all of the work. I'm not going to try to describe what they are doing because their code is jargony to me and I don't think I get it, but apparently creating the breeding chains the proper way would be NP hard. That's the whole reason, without consideration of how much data we're actually talking about, which is not nearly enough to warrant bringing up formal classes of complexity. To be fair, the comment was written back in Gen 7 when people were expecting that as each generation would introduce new moves and change what moves a Pokemon could learn, move pools would inflate in perpetuity, but that stopped in Gen 8 because transferring Pokemon to a different game would give them a new moveset. Anyway, nothing we've looked at so far has adequate options, if any, to filter for what Pokemon are actually available to me. Even Porydex is really only listing out a small portion of the chains that are actually possible. These were all the options available in 2025. When I am mildly inconvenienced, I program, except this was major because without any good option, I couldn't ensure all of my movesets were valid for the videos, so this had to happen. Remember, my programming projects have to have 2-word names or I will die. Well, there's eggs, and if you look at a node graph, it looks like a spider web, so yeah. Okay, so EggWebs does have one odd aspect I have to mention, and that's data sourcing. My other Pokemon programming project, EXP Squeeze, has had some problems with relying on third-party data sources. When my data has problems, I want it to be quick and easy to fix. I also want to keep the program lightweight, so ideally I don't ship thousands of files. I mean, I did anyway for the sprites, but you know. Not that it's a priority, but if I could have it be easy for users to fabricate data for their own uses, that'd be cool too. This also makes it easier for me to debug. And that's why EggWebs uses a bring your own data approach with data that the user retrieves from Bulbapedia. This approach has 2 problems. 1, you have to get that data yourself, but it's really not that hard. You just have to go to the page for the move you want, go to the edit screen, which can be done in multiple ways, and copy the whole thing into a text file on your computer. 2, much more importantly, if some significant shift happens in the structure of Bulbapedia's pages, EggWebs might stop working correctly. This could always happen, but I have no reason to think it will. To find a breeding chain, we start at the species we want to put the moves on. We look at every other Pokemon who learns the move to find which ones could be a father to the child. There are a ton of conditions that have to be met, but the most important ones are that the mother and father have an egg group in common, that they have an egg group not in common, and that the common egg group is not one that's already somewhere down the line of descent. The first one is how we know that the Pokemon can breed at all, like we've already gone over, but the last 2 are there to keep chains from becoming redundant. If 2 Pokemon have identical egg groups, then there's no point in breeding them, and of course going back into an egg group we've already visited is pointless as well. To create breeding chains that let you pass down a combination of moves, we pretty much do what we did in the example from before. Require that every father can learn all of the moves in question for as far up the chain as is necessary. To reiterate a bit on that example, we'd require that whoever teaches Chikorita Leech Seed can also learn Hidden Power, which is easy since almost all Pokemon can learn that move by TM. Execute learning Leech Seed by level up takes the responsibility off of whoever its father is to teach it that move, so now we can focus on just Hidden Power. It's important to understand that once we hit that point in the chain, it is okay to do something that would seem redundant in consideration to what came before, like having the target species appear in the middle of the breeding chain, because that's really a chain which is focused on teaching hidden power to execute, not Chikorita. Then there's what is apparently the most innovative part of the program: options. Options for what games Pokemon can be transferred from, passing things other than moves like natures, options for how parents can learn moves, a maximum level option for Pokemon involved in the breeding chains, requiring specific Pokemon that the breeding chain can start with, and excluding Pokemon from breeding chains for when you can't access them. There's also slow mode, which lets you walk through each step of the program yourself to understand its logic. This lets users learn how breeding works and helps me debug. After an experiment with HTML and JavaScript in another programming project, with a 2-word name obviously, I found that it's pretty nice to make a UI in, so I did the same for EggWebs. And that's the only nice part. Holy shit, the entire internet is running on sticks and tape. So yeah, that's pretty cool. What this program needs though is testing. I only have my own uses for the program and can only think of so many scenarios, so I don't know how well it really works. I think the best way to find out is simply to send it out into the world, so go use EggWebs for your own purposes, I wouldn't know.